Welcome back to the Review Tuesday. My name's Ruben and this is my review for Bastard Season 2 or Bastard Heavy Metal Dark Fantasy Season 2. It is the Hell's Requiem adaptation from the manga or the story that was created way back in the 1980s. Let's jump in. So in these 15 episodes we have a number of factions fighting against each other. We have the Sorceress Shogun, we have the Samurai Centurions, and we also have the big bad that's been building since season 1, or 24 episodes of that was leading to the main big bad, which is of course Anthrasax, the god of destruction that we've seen a little bit about, but we get quite a bit of backstory with the god of Anthrasax, at least how that came to be and how Anthrasax was defeated 400 years prior, and now we know what it takes to defeat that. I'm surprised that we even got a second season of this anime, because this is now is not the time in our day and age with woke culture and everything that people are so afraid to even show on screen nowadays or say, because there's so many things you can't say without upsetting people. So this is one of those animes that in the 80s would have been fine, or in the manga would have been fine, but I am really surprised that we're still getting this. This is going to be one of those few and far between animes that has the gall and the balls to do something that is adult in nature. I'm so surprised it's a 15 as well. I think the first one was an 18, the second season's a 15. That's not to say there isn't everything that you'd come to expect from this anime. Between all the tropes, it's taken all the tropes of anime and packed them into, over 9,000. They've just really crept up all those silly dialogues. It's terrible dialogue in places. It's so cheesy, creepy in places, stupid in other places, and it just owns it. If it took itself serious, then this anime would have nothing fun. But there's a lot of fun to be had here if you go in knowing what type of anime it is, and it just throws all the gimmicks in there, from the men being over barely men and shouting their move sets like every other cliched anime. Whenever they're going to do any of their moves, they're going to shout it and tell you exactly what they're going to do, to the women who wear basic bikinis, and that's their armor, when the men have deep set chest plated armor and big cloaks and boots, and the women have next to nothing on. And often the anime itself will focus on the woman's assets, or a Dark Schneider, our main protagonist, will be feeling up the woman. And that is not something you could show in a TV series without, like a live action TV series or new anime, without getting a lot of people upset. But knowing what this anime is, it kind of works. You understand what they're going for. And it's quite funny in places and so stupid in other places that you'll just be laughing with what the story is. And obviously the story here, we have the two main protagonists, which is Dark Schneider, and which we knew not much about in the first 24 episodes, but in these 15 he's got a kind of counterpart. In this one you can see him as fire and his counterpart is ice. There's a nice kind of background story as to why he's ended up as his enemy in this one and why they end up fighting. So we have Kalsu Sorceress Shoguns up against Dark Schneider's ninja, but although Dark Schneider is still kind of on his own, it's just the people that he had. His four amazing opponents are still around. There's a lot that's gone on since the end of season 1. There's a bit of a time gap until we see Schneider, but once we do, it all kings up to that familiar animation sequences that we know and love if you love the first one. So here's the thing, I don't think this season is as good as the first one, because I felt that the stakes were higher. It just felt like there was actually something to worry about, even though there seemed like the underdogs for the most part, even with Dark Schneider there being the kind of guy that he is. They just never really felt like there were actually consequences at stake. In fact, when we get to the ending of this, it just feels like the consequences are still coming. This is almost like a padding season, because I thought that this was going to be end of this arc, but it definitely seems like there's going to be another one, because the story isn't complete. There is a segment of the arc that's complete within here, which feels somewhat satisfying, but then there is the larger big arc that's going to come into play. So really this is a stepping stone into the next part of the story. I listened to multiple episodes in English and I listened to multiple episodes in the original Japanese, and I would say they both have shouty voice work, so there isn't much difference between them. They're exactly the same for me. Normally I would say stick to that original, but if you don't like reading, it's absolutely fine, because you're getting the same sort of energy from both languages, which is great. And when it comes to the action sequences, definitely better than some of the anime that I've seen from Netflix of recent. The actual fighting sequences you get to see, they're very vibrant and gory, and there's limbs flying everywhere. When it comes to the fighting itself, it's fairly good. When it comes to the generic animation styles, that's fairly bland. A lot of still images moved along and backed with some slight movement, with that score kind of giving the illusion that there's more animation going on than there actually is. That's fine. A lot of animation series do that, and it works for this because they spend their budget in the fighting sequences, which you get to see a lot of. So when you get those action sequences with Snyder, they're shouting their movesets, and you're seeing how big and epic the movesets are going to be. You know, we have everything this time around, from flying islands to dragons, you name it. They're going for the big explosion. That's what this series is everything big and ridiculous. And that's what this anime series is. Ridiculous. But you have to kind of embrace that. Don't expect any amount of highbrow dialogue. It's exactly what an 80s anime would be, but nowadays. I enjoy this somewhat. Like, it's one of those cheesy anime that you can put in the background and not take too seriously, but also are amazed at how much they get away with still in this day and age, because there's so much alluded to nudity or alluded to assault. That's what that would be classed as today. But in anime, and especially in the culture of anime, and especially in the culture of manga, that is rife throughout it. So you can't really have one-on-one without changing the culture completely. So that's just part and parcel with it. So they embrace all of that kind of tropes, and that's what makes this series work for the most part. I think if you like stupid anime, or you need something that doesn't take itself seriously at all, then you enjoy it. It's more of the same from season 1. It embraces, everything that kind of worked in season 1 and gives us more of that in this one. I just felt like, didn't feel like the consequences were real. And you'll know that when our characters are able to do things like make people come back alive again. That really does take away consequences. They even mention that. Some of the other things that I quite like that work, our characters occasionally break the fourth wall, and sometimes I've just felt like, oh, that's irky and that's annoying. But that kind of worked. They so much don't take themselves seriously that in the spirit of Deadpool, even breaking that fourth wall kind of worked here. And there are moments that I laughed out loud because I thought the jokes that they hit were working on the nail, even though this is a manga that's, old and is adapted from an old anime. But there's a lot that works for this if you understand what it is. Let me know, who's your favorite character in this other than Dark Schneider? There are so many characters that are introduced to us in this second season. Very interesting, quirky characters that is everything anime, like all the tropes. So I'll give this 3.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
And you got one. Congratulations.
Not the best, but a fun one-time watch. I'm eager to see the story complete. I don't know if I'm eager to see another series. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.